Hi, I'm Chris Stokes at Custom Fitness, where your health comes first, and today we're discussing the difference between losing weight and losing fat. Are they the same? Is one more important than the other? What on earth is the difference? These are questions that I get all the time. A lot of people are very concerned with what the scale says about them, what number they weigh, versus other things, and they feel like if they get to a certain number on that scale that they're going to find the body that they want, they're going to be able to fit in the clothes that they want, they're going to be able to find the happiness that they want. And really honestly, if we all dig down deep, that's what we're looking for, right? Is happiness, joy, feeling good about ourselves, and a lot of times we are looking to that scale. So let me tell you kind of the difference here, but let me first give you an analogy. So if you have a kitchen sponge, just a cheap old regular kitchen sponge, and you take it out of the package, it doesn't weigh a lot, right? But it's a nice rectangle shape. And then if you take it and you soak it under the water, it weighs a lot more now, but it's still the same rectangle shape, right? So that's kind of what weight loss is to your body. If you just lose weight, you're like that kitchen sponge. You're going to retain your original shape, only in a smaller version. Does that make sense? So if you've got certain areas that maybe protrude more than others, those areas are still going to protrude. It's just that your whole body will be a smaller version of what you already were. So back to our kitchen sponge analogy, if we begin to use that sponge, say that we take it and we've been scraping on some dishes, we've been rubbing on some pans, we've been using it over and over and over again, eventually you'll need a new sponge, won't you? Why? Not because it weighs less or more, but because it's actually starting to break it down, right? It's starting to change the shape of the sponge. It's starting to change how dense the sponge is and things like that. So if we look at fat loss, that's what's happening to our body during fat loss. We're not breaking it down in a bad way. Let me make sure and set that one straight. But what we're doing is we're changing our body shape through the use of our body to be a different shape. Okay? So if we're unhappy with the shape of our body, say that our waist is much larger than what we would like for it to be, then just focusing on weight alone is not going to change the shape of that waist, because as you're losing strictly weight, most people's idea of how to do that is through calorie deprivation and through high, long, boring cardio, right? Getting on the treadmill or the elliptical for an hour, hour and a half, doing cardio classes over and over again, riding their bike, walking, doing all these things that are good for you, but are not the right fit for the right goal. So just because food is good for you doesn't mean that you should be eating everything all the time, right? We have to eat in balance. Same idea with cardio. We have to have specific pieces for specific needs. So if we're doing this long, arduous cardio and we're not eating enough nutrition to balance the calorie needs, the energy needs of our body, then what we're going to do is we're going to start to lose muscle mass. And I promise you that's not what you want to do. So there's several reasons that we don't want to lose muscle mass. Number one, if you're losing muscle mass, you're going to end up with that so-called skinny fat look. The look that makes people think that you're ill because you have nothing under the skin to plump you out and hold you up, but rather you kind of look sunken and ill, if you will. Number two is that without muscle mass, our bone density is going to start to be less and less because our muscles pull on bones and help to create stronger bones. Our muscles help us to move better, have a higher quality of life, and just really honestly to feel better in that quality of life. So we want to have that muscle mass. Excuse me. So if we're only doing a weight loss program and all we're doing is cutting calories and at the most doing long, arduous cardio, then what's happening is we're burning that muscle off. So what we want to do is we want to flip the scales here. We want to change from looking at the weight scale to looking at the body fat scale, if you will, looking at our percentage of body fat, looking at our percentage of lean muscle, seeing what our body is changing, so that we're not just focused on weight alone. Because when we start to focus on how much muscle we're carrying and how much fat we're carrying, and we start to see that that's a little bit more of what we're looking for when we're looking to change our body shape, then we're looking at what do we do to do that? Well, we've got to have balanced nutrition to do that, because we know that the only way we're going to build more muscle and be able to burn off that fat is through balanced nutrition. We know that we're going to need to do some sort of metabolic strength training. And we'll have another video on that here pretty soon. But metabolic strength training is really important because we're getting both muscle and cardio at the same time. We're getting both strength and cardio so that we can build our metabolic ability. So when we build muscle, it's a highly metabolic tissue. That means it's going to help to burn off more fat when you're not exercising, which is really good news, right? Because nobody wants to exercise all day long. Maybe the Olympic athletes, but the rest of us just want to be able to get done what we need to do and then go on with our lives, right? And so the more muscle we build, the more metabolic ability that we have to burn off that fat when we're not working out comes into play. We want to make sure that we're reaching towards the right goal. So if your goal is just to be a smaller version of who you already are, then maybe you're on the right path. But if your goal is to transform your body, to get into a smaller pant size, to fit in your shirts the right way that you want to, or to look away in a picture, or to have better health overall from the inside out, then if it were up to me, I choose fat loss every time. I step away from the scale and I encourage people to move towards changing their body and changing their health for life, because so many of these weight loss programs, you can only keep up calorie deprivation for so long. And I just spoke with a woman not too long ago who was telling me how much she had spent in just 3-4 months of training in a different city. And it was an outrageous number. I'm talking in the thousands of dollars for just a few months. And when it was over, all she did was turn around and go right back to where she was. And it was because they hadn't given her the education she needed to move forward, and they hadn't provided her with the right nutrition plan for her body. So if that's something that you've struggled with, maybe you haven't spent thousands of dollars, I hope not, but maybe you have. Maybe you've bought all these programs, you've done all these things, and you haven't found the results that you're looking for. That's when you need to give our team a call.